as it has to go to the permanent parking units, I'd be happy to add that, as well as grovel. So we could have grovel.
Just a minor detail.
I'd be happy to make that change.
Okay. I'm gonna have a question for Melody on why they have to crawl Health and Human Services.
I'll leave that to her.
Go to the flu clinic, you figure it out.
You keep lobbing them up, I'll keep hitting them out of the park.
Board members have any questions? Audience have any questions of this action? Supervisor Wasik, sure.
Maybe could we just get a little, quickly a refresher of just how this tied into, I know we talked about it in budget, but we talked about a lot of things. I think it's lead to it for the benefit of the public if they sort of.
Sure, in the case of the building inspector, we've had a building inspector too that's worked for us for almost a decade without promotion. And as I said in the budget hearings, this person has just shined over the years, really doing a great job. And I'm just apologetic that it's taken so long to recognize that as well. The assistant planner or assistant director position, we've had our chief working out of class for some time, especially with the problems that we've had with the building department, getting staffing levels back. The chief planner has really stepped up and is being paid out of class. And the unfortunate end of this promotion is that he'll probably lose a nickel an hour because he's been out of class for some time now. So, but it does recognize him formally for what he's doing and the role that he's playing.
We also want to retain these qualified people. We see them as future leaders in the department.
Absolutely. I'm treating my replacement. That was a joke, you could have laughed. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right.
Any other questions or comments by board members? Anybody from the audience? Care to entertain a motion on this action?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to establish budget funded positions of Assistant Director of Planning and Building Services and Senior Building Inspector, unfunded budget positions of Chief Planner and Building Inspector 2, and authorize the County Auditor to make necessary adjustments to the final fiscal year 2013 and 2014 county budget.
Does your motion include amending the job description?
Yeah. And approve Assistant Director job classification subject to meeting and conferring with the pertinent bargaining unit.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Alba. Been moved by Supervisor Wasik, seconded by Supervisor Alba to establish the two positions and the funding for it. Since this is a budget item, does it require 4/5 or not? I don't believe so. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, carries unanimously. We're going to move on then to H2, Hurlong Local Reuse Authority properties.
Members, as the board is well aware, for some period of time now, we've been in the process of trying to sell the LRA properties. The board has declared the properties surplus, and we've been through 2 RFP processes. The second one resulted in a bidder that met the qualifications of the RFP, and our recommendation is that you authorize me to sign a sales agreement with the successful bidders and sign all the other necessary documents that will be necessary to transact the sale. We recommend that as part of this motion, you again reaffirm the property as a surplus, that a notice of exemption will be filed with CEQA as required by the law, and that the Planning Commission will have to consider the general plan implications or conformity at their October 2nd meeting. Following your action today, an escrow will be opened at Chicago Title, and then we also have to get through the public hearing process, so the actual transaction, completion sale, is probably 45 days out.
Any questions or comments from board members? I know that Mr. Egan's in the room and Supervisor Alba.
Marty, just from what we had in public comment earlier to the general public, can you maybe kind of address some of the things we brought up in public comment.
Or Richard again. The fact was that the board, it was the board's desire, and I believe the RFP stated it, Richard, you'd have to help me on selling the whole properties, obviously.
Well, as the board knows, this is the second request for proposals that we issued.
Right.
The first time, none of the proposals received really addressed the board's desires, which were to get rid of all the property at the best price. The second request for proposal process, we received 4 proposals. 2 of those proponents proposed to take the entire property. 2 of them did not. And at, at the board's direction, the proposals that proposed to take the entire property were given more weight because of that. The one that the board's elected to go with is the highest dollar amount for out of the 2 that met that criteria. So.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
And that,
No, you go,
The,
Supervisor Lawson, and we'll get
that
Mr. Dow.
price was, what was it about?
$31,900.
I think it's just important to recognize, I mean, I know comments were made, a public comment by Willis that his bid was 3 times higher. I know his bid was at $96,000. So it needs to be.
I'll address that if you'd like.
It needs to be clarified, just so.
Sure, and I don't have the bids in front of me. I'll let Mr. Dow address that, but I think it was a couple $1,000s.
Right.
Willis?
On your guys' cover sheet for the request for proposal, it says in bulk for selected portions.
That's right.
For the parcels. And then if you divide the total $31,000 that Pizzulo, here, $31,900 divided by the total acres, which is 341.77 acres. Their bid is $93 per acre. What I bid was $255 per acre. And I selected only parcel number 4. And it didn't specify your bid would be weighted greater if you bid on every parcel. If so, then the other 255 acres I have an interest in as well. If that's the way it is, then I'd take the other open ground, but I was not interested in buildings. Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions? Thanks, Willis. Anybody else in the audience have any questions on this action?
Was it specified in RFP that we wanted to get rid of all the property and, I mean, how was that, to address Willis's question on that? I mean, how was that?
I'd be happy to address that. The purpose of, and there's a distinction between a request for proposals and a bid, in quotes. The purpose of the request for proposals is to ask anyone out there what their proposal is rather than dictating specifications for the disposal of the property. So it's intentionally broad in nature, the proposal, to see what is the best proposal that comes to the county from those that are out there. I think and I tend to agree with the board's philosophy that, we've got a big project out there that's got some good stuff and some bad stuff, and the intention, I think, of the board was to stop the bleeding or the expense that's being incurred by owning all of that property out there, by getting rid of the good with the bad, so to speak. And I think that was the intention of the RFP, and I think it accomplished that goal.
Any other questions, comments? Go ahead, Aaron.
Richard, while you're there, is there anything to preclude Mr. Dow from working with Mr. Pizzulo if this goes forward in conjunction with the timing as this title is transferring, if you were to get that parcel that he's interested in and tying that all together at the same time as it goes to the title company?
Well, what the board is envisioning here in the contract that's being recommended is to sell the property to Smith and Pizzulo. What they do with that after they buy it is up to them, like any landowner. So.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Can I ask?
Yes, certainly, Iona.
Oops. Iona McCain here. What if your bid is different than when people put in a bid, they misunderstand it, and your proposal that is presented is a different for the person who is acting as a purchaser? What if the two are different? Wouldn't it be best to start all over again and let them submit it? It seems like you want to sell all the stuff at one time, excluding a person who months ago put a bid in on a particular piece of property in the LRA. Why don't you just simply start over and put it out to bid again and let it be cured that way? I thank you very much before you take a vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Iona. Supervisor Wasik?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We went through the process twice. The RFP clearly stated, our intentions. It did state, I believe, that our main intention was to get rid of everything, but we would look at any bids. Clearly, after two go-rounds, if you will, the offer presented by Pizzulo and Smith clearly is in the county's best interest. As much as I would like to see Willis be able to do something with this parcel to accept a bid of $2,000 or $3,000 to achieve that and be left with the balance of the LRA properties, clearly is not in the best interest of the county. So I would encourage Willis to work with Pizzulo and Smith, and hopefully he could achieve his objectives. And by accepting the Pizzulo-Smith bid, we, I think, as a county, achieve our objectives. So with that, I would move to dispose or authorize the CAO to execute on behalf of the board the sales agreement and all other necessary property transfer documents to effect the sale of the Hurlong property to Pizzulo and Smith LLC.
And
I would just like to comment one more time.
hold it, Willis, I'll get a second, then we'll continue the discussion.
And the motion, the motion includes the findings that you're declaring the property surplus, that a notice of exemption was filed, and that the planning commission, and the notice that the planning commission will consider the general plan conformity on October 2nd.
Yeah, well, I'm moving to as action requested. I think that the action requested doesn't include all that.
Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Supervisor Alba. Now under discussion, board members have any discussion? I will allow the audience to enter into the discussion as well. Mr. Dow, Willis, comment?
I just would
Sure.
recommend, Willis Dow, that Larry Wasik recuse himself from even voting on this, since he's in the first round of bids, that he's the person I was bidding against. He's also the supervisor that was willing to make a deal under the table with me if he ended up with the property. So my thoughts are that you reconsider.
Thank you, Willis.
Yeah, it needs to be clarified that when I did put in a bid, it was said at the time that it needed to be looked into. I asked for county council to see if this was a conflict, and if it was, that I would withdraw. And I did look into it, and I did withdraw. And I was trying to be accommodating to Mr. Dow when I saw he came in and he wanted to get a few acres. I said, well, certainly if it works out, I would have no problem. So, Mr. Chairman, I would appreciate if you didn't allow the audience to come and make false accusations and try to vent, sour grapes.
Let's refrain from any personal
Thank you.
discussions.
Thanks.
My other suggestion would be that you contact Pizzulo and see what their interests are in the properties, excluding number 4 for their bid. And then you would be allowed to, I would hope, sell the item number 4 on your list of proposal properties, disperse of to me, myself.
Thank you, Willis. Anybody else want to enter into the discussion? We have a motion and a second. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Is there any opposition?
What was the second on that?
The second was Supervisor Alba
Thank you.
on that, yes. Hearing no opposition, that one carried unanimously. Chair voted for it, and we're going to move on then to our matter set for time certain. And this is the recognition committee presentation. Cynthia in the room? I know Tiffany is. Cynthia. Okay. We'll take them in order. Cynthia Roshine. Hi, Cynthia. It's an honor to do this. It's one of my last acts. One of my. Yeah, right.
You did.
You want to step over here, Cynthia, please? Okay. Certificate of recognition. This certificate is presented to Cynthia Roshine in appreciation for your 15 years of employment with the County of Lassen. We, the Lassen County Board of Supervisors, would like to take this opportunity to present you with this certificate of recognition and thank you for your time, efforts, and commitment. Thank you very much. Oh, and here, we don't forget the all engraved. Yeah, that's right. I'm sure Mr. Douglas took care of that for us or something. But anyway, Larry, you have a couple of comments.
I do. Yeah, we've been lucky to have Cynthia for about half of her career with the county. She's our transportation project manager, which oversees our transit operations, our complex transportation funding regulations. Just very glad to have her and appreciate her dedication and work ethics. Thank you very much.
Hold on. You're batting 1,000 so far.
Yeah, no, I got to work with Cynthia the first half of her career here, and I just want to say you're the best. You're the hardest working person in this building, and you go the extra mile, and I'm real proud of you. And that's not for gouging yourself in the eye. That's a sign of it. But I only know that if you're at 15 years, I got to look at the clock because it seems like yesterday we started here. So.
Congrats.
Thank you, Board. The next one is Tiffany. Tiffany Jocelyn. Hi, Tiffany. How are you? Good to see you. Certificate of recognition, and I'm amazed you've been here 15 years. That shows how long I've been here. Anyway, certificate of recognition. This certificate is presented to Tiffany Jocelyn in appreciation for your 15 years of employment with the County of Lassen. We, the Lassen County Board of Supervisors, would like to take this opportunity to present you with this certificate of recognition and thank you for your time, efforts, and your commitment. Congratulations. And of course, we have kids for you as well.
And we've got a few things to
Yeah.
say.
Well, there are probably a few people who may speak, so.
Oh. So I was gonna make this very short and sweet, because Tiffany doesn't like a whole lot of fanfare about the great job that she does, but I want to say that it's a privilege to work with her, because she's one of the many people at the department that she really has a compassion and a commitment for the people that we serve, and truly is one of our champions for recovery. So I was going to say something short and sweet, and then I looked over and Mel has this huge long list of things that she would like to also contribute. Do you want to get up?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You know, I've known Tiffany since she started here, right, fresh out of college, in the Bridges unit, where they were working with some of the toughest kids and families on, at that time, the mental health department caseload. But she had those bright and shining eyes of people who love their job. She still has them. And that's pretty amazing, considering all the interesting people she's met along the way. She's a rehab specialist. She works with, generally with our most disturbed clients. She can listen to their bizarre tales with only a slight lift of an eyebrow and a, huh. That's amazing. I've heard her say that to people. She's not afraid to go down to the river and try over and over to engage someone who's homeless and down on their luck due to their mental illness. She doesn't get angry when they refuse to let her help. She just goes back to check on them and try to engage them in programs at a later date. She's very compassionate and non-judgmental, relies on her sense of humor and to survive and thrive in this job. And the job is so interesting to her, she even goes home at night and watches Honey Boo Boo, which is gotta be fodder for the learning mill there. I love talking to Tiffany. She's always been to a training or read something new, and she's always willing to share a lot of the stuff that I've learned about mental illness and recovery. I've learned from Tiffany, and she sparked me to go out and find some of my own information, and it's been very useful to me over the years. I'd just say the department's very lucky to have Tiffany, and if our luck continues, she'll still be around 30 or 40 years from now. Thanks, Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay, we're gonna move on then. We've got a 10:15 time certain. We got a little bit of time in between. We'll move to item H3, and that's CSA 1, County Service Area 1, Honey Lake TV. Honey Lake area budget and changes, and so on and so forth.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any representative.
Dan's out of that.
Dan here?
Dan, we're taking that Honey Lake TV item.
Oh, okay.
Only because with our time certainty, we were able to squeeze you in. Obviously, we've got some other actions under public hearing.
Yeah. Members, the issue before you today is the agreement between the county and the Honey Lake Community Television Corporation. As I think everybody understands, the corporation is a nonprofit 501c3, I assume, operation. And there's been an agreement between the county and the corporation for some time. So essentially, the county's role is to place on the bill the service fee of $25 per year, which is a budget action we'll take later this morning, and then have a contract with the corporation to run the facilities. The basic policy question before the board is, if the corporation cannot operate within the revenues generated by the fee, who's responsible to maintain services and/or the equipment? In February, we met with the corporation. I thought we had an agreement, but apparently I misconstrued that. It was on the agenda in February. You authorized a contract that basically said, the county's obligations are limited to collecting the fee. The corporation doesn't agree with that, and that's the issue before the board. What is going to be the business relationship between us and the corporation? And that's the issue we're looking for direction on today.
Anything else, Dan, under your portion, if you will?
Under this item, we're talking about the budget, correct? Or are we talking about the contract? I don't know.
Talking about
we're talking about the contract.
Right, the budget will come up.
Okay, yeah,
Public hearing.
the contract as it was presented to us, first of all, we've never terminated the prior contract. That contract, we feel, is still valid. We've never been served with any termination notice. We're kind of at a quandary as to why there's a need to make this, change to the contract. I mean, evidently there's something concerned with the county on that, but therefore, the contract that was provided to you back in February, we had not had an opportunity to review. We never received it, and we had our meeting earlier, or last month, and did receive a copy the Monday before our meeting. And then we reviewed what had been in the contract, and there was some concerns with that with regard to the contractor, Honey Lake TV, being responsible to provide the funding for the program. And we don't have any funding other than what the county provides for our operation. One thing that we've seen is there's a significant loss of user fees from that assessment that's been on the tax rolls, and we're kind of trying to figure that out. We've lost a significant amount of viewers and fees being collected, and in some years
It's
there
an
were...
opt-out,
Pardon me?
opt-out under the contract?
There's a very simple opt-out. You simply call the assessment
Exactly.
office, so you're not using it.
Right.
And
It's
we
an
feel
opt-out.
that there should be something a little bit more aggressive with regard to that. In other words, you need to prove to the county that you're not using it by either presenting a current invoice from another provider. We've talked about that at length at our meeting. I mean, our board feels that it's similar to a school fee, but I know that can't happen because there's some issues with regard to how the fees were assessed originally. So we're basically here with presenting the budget to you with the funding that we know that we need to operate, and we cannot operate without having sufficient funds, as
previously mentioned. Therefore, we need to come with some resolution on how that's going to continue to operate, or if the service just disappears. We can tell you that there are some serious issues with regard to the licensing. The licenses are currently in the name of Hyundai TV. They can be transferred over to the county, but there are some, major issues that regarding that. If the county takes it over, they have to make sure that they do the annual reporting. And Vice President Jim Pecor is here to, he can probably give you a little bit more detail about what it entails with all the licenses, because he takes care of all that for the service area. But those are some serious concerns, and you miss reporting one time and you lose everything. And, our concerns is that if the county takes that over, who is going to be in charge of making sure that that happens? Those licenses are, reported. There's annual reports, like I said earlier, and there's concerns with if you lose one, you're going to lose them all, because this FCC doesn't, and you don't get them back. You cannot apply for them again. Once they're gone, they're gone. So it would be a significant impact to those folks who are using the service.
And Mr. Nichols, you had mentioned in your staff report, that one of the concerns is if they do begin to operate in the red, if you will, who picks up?
Yes, I mean, that's the fundamental issue, is that does the Board of Supervisors want the county general fund to stand behind the operations of the corporation and the service area, should the $20 fee not be sufficient to generate the cost? The second question, which I think Dan is addressing, is if the county is going to be responsible for this, should we consider taking much more direct control, of the operation, not operate through the corporation? That has a whole bunch of implications that Dan is talking about that we would want to talk very seriously about if that's the direction we head. But the principal issue